Guys, I'm really happy to welcome back to the podcast Rod Blagojevich, former governor of Illinois, in fact, the 40th governor of Illinois. He's now an author, speaker, podcast host, and boy, does he know a thing or two about the injustice of our justice system. You can follow him on Twitter at Real Blagojevich, Blagojevich. Rod, a pleasure. Great to have you on the podcast. And, you know, we both have this thing in common in the sense that we were a target of political attack early on, before this was something that was widespread, before the public was really familiar about it. And do you think that this kind of political targeting has been standard practice in American politics, or do you think that it is now just kind of a nasty turn that seems to have developed only in the last several years?
Question. Before I answer that, let me just say, Dinesh, my whole life I've been having to spell my last name. You know, people messed it up since I started in kindergarten and pretty much all through politics. And now, after what they did to me, I spell my name a little bit differently. I say B-L-A-G as in not guilty, O-J-E-V-I-C-H. No, I think, Dinesh, it's the latter. I think it's been something that's been gradually developing. I think it's a lot like everything else in life, whether it's in professional sports or entertainment, business, it's a copycat league. I do believe that when these federal prosecutors were successful in taking out a Democrat governor at the AAA level all those years ago, they were emboldened. They felt that they were able to do what they did to a governor. Let's now try a president. I think what they did to you is an example of sort of the weaponization of prosecutors going after things that are routine and common and standard practice that they now are criminalizing. And now what they're doing to President Trump, of course, is at a level that's never been seen before. It's an unprecedented, poisonous political hit by this prosecutor, Jack Smith, bringing criminal charges on a case involving a president's documents. People have discussed this a lot, so I won't go into all of that. But it's really preposterous. And through my own experience, Dinesh, they brought with it the charges against me. It was not unusual for me to periodically say to my lawyers, you mean to tell me that's now a crime? Since when did they change the law and make that a crime? So I think we're facing something that's, I think, is probably the central issue of our time, and that is these corrupt, uncontrolled, unchecked, weaponized prosecutors who inject themselves into the political process. And Jack Smith, what he's doing to President Trump, he has a history to doing to other people, Senator Edwards, Senator Menendez. And they're going to destroy our freedom and destroy our democracy. And it really is, if you look at it carefully, I believe treasonous, because what they're doing is they're stealing from the people our right to choose our leaders in elections that are free and fair. And doing something like this that dramatically prejudices the electorate against a particular candidate, not to mention the fact that this is third world politics and the kind of stuff they do in the former Soviet Union and probably today's Russia. It's really outrageous. And I think whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you got to stand up to this and not be for it. The problem is we live in a hyper-partisan age, and my party, the Democrats, are gleeful over this weaponization. And so many of these guys like Nadler, who I was with in Congress back in the 1990s, some of the very arguments that he made against what was being done to Bill Clinton back then, and there were some real serious questions about Clinton's behavior, he's now flipping and taking a position just the opposite of the sorts of things he was saying back in the 1990s, because Jerry Nadler, with all due respect to him, is just a hyper-partisan political hack.
Do you think, Rod, I mean, when I think of the playbook that is being applied in all these cases, it seems to have a kind of resemblance. And let's look at your case for a moment. You have an open Senate seat. You were accused of somehow trading for that Senate seat. Now, it's normal when a political position opens up for politicians to discuss, well, who are the candidates? And basically, it's also normal in politics to talk about favors. You do something for me, I do something for you. This is not exactly new in American politics. I think what you're saying is they took something that was relatively routine behavior in politics and figured out a way to criminalize it. Isn't that what happened in your case in a nutshell?
Absolutely. And the great irony is that the conversations that dealt with discussing a political deal about the Senate seat were initiated by then President-elect Obama. He started the whole thing on election night, Grant Park in Chicago, before he gave that big speech that he gave in front of hundreds of thousands of people. It was a magical night. I was backstage with all the leading political figures in Illinois and in Chicago, and national figures as well. And I was approached by a labor boss who came up to me and said, Barack called me last night. He would like Valerie Jarrett to be the senator. That was the candidate that he apparently wanted. Wants me to come and see you and talk to you and see what you want. And then we began those discussions. My infamous Eppin Golden quote was the next day. After I went out running 7.5 miles, I'm laying on the floor talking to one of my advisors. And I said, so-and-so suggested that we just please Obama. And I said, well, this is Eppin Golden. I'm not giving it up for nothing, meaning a political deal. And by the way, most people don't know this, but the appellate court eventually reversed those charges. They said it was routine political log rolling. I'd been in prison for 4.5 years. The damage was done. And to this day, I'm still known for having done that, which I never did. It was never a crime to begin with. It was a big lie that they criminalized. And as a result, they hijacked a governor twice elected by the people. I firmly believe unlawfully, unconstitutionally, and they stole me from the people. And the people who did this, these prosecutors, surely that must be a crime when you steal a governor from the people who elected them. And it surely must be a crime when you try to do this to a president. Again, for things that are not crimes.
Let's take a pause. When we come back, more with former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich.